Okay, so when you are doing the calculator portion, which is what we're going to go over first, there's going to be 4 questions. So the first calculator one is number 4. It says how many local maxima and minima does the graph have? And I just reminded you guys that you had to show your work for this. And all you had to do in terms of showing your work for number 4 is just draw a sketch of it, right? If you draw the sketch, we can clearly see there's 1 maxima and there's 2 minima. Okay, so your answer for that is B. The next calculator one is number 9. It says find all rational zeros of the polynomial. So if you're finding all of the rational zeros, okay, all of the rational zeros you can see on your calculator by finding your x-intercepts. Okay, so if you're finding your x-intercept for number 9, you could just draw a picture of the graph. I just drew like it went through here at 4, and that's how I knew it was A. You could also just check them with synthetic division if you wanted, right? If it is a 0, you will get 0 as the remainder. I think just finding it on the graph is going to be easier. All right, and then number 2 is a calculator. So it says, what is the maximum height? Anytime they're asking you for a maximum, you are going to find the vertex. So what is the height attained by the ball and at what time does it occur? Okay, so you would have 2 lines, one for the maximum height. Oops, not max time, just it'll be say time. Okay, and you have to find the time which it occurs. You can graph this on your graphing calculator and you can find the maximum, or for me, it is quicker for me to use algebra. So I would do the opposite of B over 2A, okay, to find the x value. So the opposite of B, your B value is 80. Your A value is, this says minus 16, negative 16. So it'll be negative 80 over 2 times A. So negative 80 over negative 32. You will have your calculator, so you'll just divide, and it's 2.5. Okay, and it says here that it's after like your t seconds, so that's going to be the input. So the time is going to be 2.5 seconds. Okay, and then to find the maximum height, you're just going to plug this into your equation. So 2.5 minus 16, 2.5 squared. Again, you can just plug that into your calculator. And then did we get 100 for that? What do you guys get for your maximum height? 100, so it'll be 100 in feet. All right. Any questions on that one? Again, you could find the maximum. You do need your graphing calculator though. Okay, so you have to use your graphing calculator, not decimals. I think it's quicker to use algebra just because I don't love adjusting my window. For number 8, on your test it'll specify that there's no decimals. We're always gonna write these as exact values. Okay, so you're not just gonna find what they are in decimal form using the 0 function. You have to be able to do that synthetic division. So your first step is going to be to find your x-intercepts. Okay, when you are finding your x-intercepts, you can look and see the integers. You can use your tables for the integers. And then if they are not integers, you can use your 0 function. You can use the possible rational zeros. So when you look at your graph, the first thing you're going to see is this negative 3. And then we're going to confirm that with synthetic division. Okay, so then we multiply, -9, we multiply, we got -93, add straight down, and then a negative times a negative is going to be a positive, and this you can use your calculator on, so you'll have that to help you with some of the bigger numbers. Okay, and then once you get here, you have to keep going if it's not a quadratic. Remember that the possible zeros are your P over Q. So you have all the factors of 75, 1, 3, blah, 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 up to 75 over the constant term, which is 1 and 3. So if I'm looking to see what my possible zeros are, and I see there's one between 0 and -1, okay, which is on your graph, when I'm looking at these, the first one I'm going to try is 1/3, okay, -1/3. You can also use your zero function. Are there other ways you guys are verifying your zero is -1/3? Yep, you can change what it's set to in the table. You can have it go by 1/3 to see if that works. All of those are great options. Okay, and then we're going to verify with synthetic division. And then we're multiplying. All right, that works out. So you have 3x squared plus 30x minus 75 equals 0. If you want, you can do your quadratic formula with these numbers, or if you notice there's a common factor, you can divide both sides by 3, and that just makes the quadratic formula a little bit easier because you're dealing with smaller numbers. So it would be the opposite of b, plus or minus b squared, okay, minus 4ac over 2a. Okay, so when you have a negative times a negative, that's going to be plus. Underneath here is 100 plus 100, which is the square root of 200 divided by 2. The perfect square in 200 is 100. So it's -10 plus or minus. You can think of it like this, which is -10 plus or minus 10 root 2 divided by 2. So you have -5 plus or minus 5 root 2. Okay, when you are listing all of your zeros, they should match your degree. Okay, so if there are 4, you should have 4 zeros. Okay, so for number 8, your zeros are -5 plus or minus 5 root 2, there's 2 of them, -3, and -1/3. Okay, so you're going to have to make sure you know your quadratic formula. Okay, how to find x-intercepts on the graph, whether they're integers or fractions. Okay, and then if you just write down the zeros that are decimals, you won't get your full points for that. Okay, so make sure you know how to use your synthetic division. All right, any questions for me on any of the calculator parts? Okay, so the calculator part will be those 4 questions. That will be first. Okay, and then you will go to the no calculator portion. So if you are trying to find the min or max of the function, just remember that the minimum or the maximum is a vertex. To find the x-coordinate of the vertex, you can always use the opposite of b over 2a. All right, so if you're doing this here, the opposite of -1 is 1 over 2 times 2, so it's 1/4. Okay, so that automatically gets rid of those 2. Then to find your y value, you're just going to plug it into the equation. Okay, so f of 1/4 equals 2 1/4 squared minus 1/4 plus 3. So we're just going to follow our order of operations. So 1 over 16, 2/16 is 1/8. Minus 1/4 plus 3. Let's get our common denominators. So 1/8 minus 2/8 plus 24/8. Okay, so 25 minus 2 is 23. 23/8 is our output. This is our input. Letter A it is. Okay, and then for B, it says find the vertex. Vertex is the same thing as the max or min. So again, what I would do is the opposite of B over 2A. This is not the only way to find it. You can use your vertex using completing the square. You can put it in vertex form. That would be fine. Okay, I think this way is quicker. So automatically I know I have -3 as my choice. So I'm going to cancel these out. And then I can just plug it in. So -3 squared minus 6 times -3 plus 10. Make sure you know your order of operations. So this is -9 plus 18. Right away, I know that's 9, so I'm just going to do those together. So 19. Okay, so then we have E. Okay, I think that's quicker than doing your vertex form, but I know some of you did that. If you are doing that, okay, you're going to group these two together, take out the negative, and then you can complete the square. If you do half of 6, it's 3 squared, but you have to apply this negative. So if you minus 9 here, you add, 9, which becomes 19. And then here, you can just pick out your vertex. Okay, so your vertex from here is -3, 19. Okay, so you can use whatever one you are most comfortable with. So vertex means the same thing as your maximum and your minimum. Okay, any questions on 1 and 2? Okay, you pick whichever one is going to be the quickest for you that you're the most comfortable with, okay? All right, and then 3, you're doing the end behavior. So we're going to look at the degree. The degree is odd. If the degree is odd, they go in opposite directions. And then this is positive. So if it's positive, it goes up on the right. Okay, so let's see what these are saying. This is saying that it goes down on the left side, and it goes up on the right side. Yeah, that's exactly what it does. Let's just double check the other ones, okay? So this is saying it goes down on the left, okay? And this is saying it goes up on the left, right? Because here you have the left and the left. So that definitely cannot be it, right? You need to have both sides for X.
Please pardon the interruption. Ava, Banks, and Erd, please report to the main office. Ava, Banks, and Erd to the main office, please.
Okay, so this is saying it goes up on the left side and it goes up on the right side. So it can't go up on both sides, so that is a no. Okay, this is saying it's going up on the left side and it is going down on the right side. So we said it's going up. So that is a no. And then both of these are to the right, on the right side, on the right side. Okay, so that would be a no as well. So it has to be A. All right, and then number 4 is on the calculator, so we're going to go to number 5. So use the factor theorem to choose a factor. The factor theorem just means when you are checking this with synthetic division, okay, that you will get 0 as the remainder. Okay, so these are your values. You can also use the rational zeros theorem. Your rational zeros theorem is the factors of 4.
Pardon the interruption. Nathaniel Miles, please report to the main office. Nathaniel Miles to the main office, please.
Okay, because this is not on the list of possibilities, I can get rid of that automatically, and then I just have to test these. So I have 1, 6, 9, and 4. Okay, if I test 1, 1 times 1 is 1, 7, Okay, so this is not going to be 0, right? If that's not 0, that's not going to work out. Okay, and then we can keep testing all these, and you don't have to test them in order. So I thought like maybe I needed a negative after doing that first one. Okay, so I'm going to try one of the negatives and see if that works out. All right, so this one has the remainder of 0, so it's D. Okay, so once I saw the positives were going up, I would try one of these, okay, with your synthetic division. Any questions for me on that? Part of it's multiple choice and then part is short answer. Yep, just like this. All right, now with this one, it says find the max or minimum value of the function. And there's more than one way to do this, okay? Again, you have these values here. You could use that b over 2a to do that. You can also group these two together, and what you're going to take out is 4. So if you're taking out the 4 here, right away, can you see there's only one answer that has that? The 4 in the front. Okay, so the only one that has the positive 4 is E, so it does have to be E. But let's say on our quiz, there's multiple that have the 4. Let's make sure we know the process. So if you do half of 1, it's 1/2, and you square it, you get 1/4. And then anytime you have something on the outside, you have to distribute. So it's like you're adding 1. If you're adding 1 here, you have to do the opposite because you're on the same side. So these should be opposites. So this would be 4x plus 1/2 squared minus 6. And then if I write this in function notation, it's negative 1/2 equals negative 6. Okay, because the a value is positive, it opens upward, and there's a minimum. Okay, so it has to be E. This one is really close. They just forgot the 4 on the outside, and then that's not correct. This is a negative 4 on the outside, so that's not going to work. Okay, so really with this, the first thing I would do is make sure the a values match. If the a value is 4, the a value is going to be outside there. Okay. All right, questions for me on that one? Any questions on 6? All right, let's talk about the vocab that's in 7. So it says the graph of the polynomial is given. Find all the local extrema. Extrema means max and mins. Okay, so there should be kind of a curve there. The only local minimum that you have is 0, -3. Okay, this is not an extrema. It's bending through. This is just an x-intercept. Okay, you can have an x-intercept that's an extrema, but it would come up. It's not going to bend through like that. So your only solution here would be C. Okay, so extrema are going to be a max or a min. You're going to have some kind of curve there. All right, and then number 8, it says list all the possible rational zeros. Okay, this is what we did for our first example in 3.4. The first thing we do is P over Q. We go over this rational zeros theorem. Okay, so if you look that up, you're going to see what we wrote out was P over Q, where P's are the factors of the constant. Okay, and then Q are the factors of the leading coefficient. Okay, so the factors of the constant are the factors of 10. 1, 2, 5, 10. The factors of the leading coefficient are 1 and 2. And then all I have to do are divide. So if I divide everything by 1, it's just going to be everything on top here. I'm not going to rewrite this out. And then we're going to divide by 2. So 1 over 2, 2 over 2 included. 5 over 2, I need those. Okay, 10 over 2 is 5, that's included. Okay, so this one, no, you can't have plus or minus 3. Okay, this one has 1/7. No. This one has 1/8. No. This one has 1/7. No. Yes, 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 yes. So that is E. All right, any questions on that page? All right, we ready for number 10? So number 10 says find all rational zeros of the polynomial by factoring. On your quiz, this is going to be a short answer question because it asks you to factor completely. So I want to make sure that you have that skill. So if it says by factoring, you have to factor completely. And so you really need to look for those special patterns. So if I'm factoring x to the 4th minus 20x squared plus 64, and I don't have a GCF, I'm going to break this up into x squared and x squared. So what multiplies to 64 but adds to negative 20. So it's not 8 and 8 because 8 and 8 is going to be 16. So something I might do is start asking myself, okay, 1 and 64, 2 and 32, okay, and if 2 goes in there and it's 32, 2 goes into 32, so I know 4 is going to go in there. So 64 divided by 4 is going to be 16. So if I have negative 4 and negative 16, that adds to negative 20. And then both of these are a difference of 2 squares. So if it does say to factor, you have to do this step. You have to do the difference of 2 squares. Okay, and because this is going to be a short answer, that's what I'm going to be looking for, is that you have x plus 2, x minus 2. And then in this one, you have x plus 4, x minus 4. And then from there, you can find your zeros, right? Plus or minus 2, plus or minus 4. Okay, so this one will be short answer so that we know you know how to factor all the way. Okay, and that will be part D, or answer D, sorry. All right, questions on that one? Okay, so for number 1, it says to express this in standard form. Remember, in this book, standard form means that you can see the vertex. Okay, and it says using the complete the square method. So I need to see that method in there. And then you're going to find the max or min. Make sure you label that and write it in function notation. So when you're doing this on the test, I'm going to have like 2 lines for you because you have to find so many things. Okay, so the first thing is make sure that you have that in standard form using that method. So we group the first 2, x squared plus 6x plus blank minus 3 plus blank. So this is half of 6 squared, which is 9. So if you're adding 9 here, we have to subtract it there. Okay, so then you have to have your f of x equals, that's what you're starting with. It'll be x plus 3 squared minus 12. How did that step go? All right, and then once you do that, you are going to say whether it's a minimum or a maximum. So if your a value is positive, it opens up. That means you have a min. So on the second line, you'll write minimum. and then you're just going to write the vertex in function form. So the vertex is -3, -12. In function notation, that is just f of -3 equals -12. So f of -3 equals -12. Okay, so on the first line, you'll have your equation. On the second line, it says find its maximum or minimum, label it as a maximum or a minimum. So we have that. And we're going to write this value in function notation. Okay, so we've done all of those steps. All right, the next one we're going to divide using long division. I'm going to put that on the back. Now you have an option for this. You can put in a placeholder if you want to. You don't have to. Did you guys put in a placeholder for this? Did you put in 0x plus 4? So you don't have to. I'm just going to show you how you can do this with it and how it might help you if you were confused or got something wrong here. So when you start this out and you divide, you get 5x, which you put here. So 5x times 3x squared is 15x cubed. If you have the 0x there, this reminds you that you have the x squared and that you got to line up your 20x. So I do feel like that's helpful, but you can just line it up without that and drop this value. Okay, either one of those are fine. And then you take that and divide it by 3x squared, which just gives you 5. So you have 15x squared. 5 times 0x is just 0x plus 20. And then change your sign, change your sign, change your sign. So you have 2x minus 20. And then once you have this degree, okay, if the degree of the remainder is less than the degree of the divisor, that's how you know when to stop. And then you are writing this answer in alternate form. So it's 5x plus 5 plus 2x minus 20 over 3x squared plus 4. That's going to be your final answer. Okay, so if you got that one wrong or were unsure about the things not lining up, you can put your placeholder in, and I think that will really help. And then if you did okay without it, you can continue to do that. All right, and then the next one says divide using synthetic division, write your answer in alternate form. What's really nice is when it says write it in alternate form, that is your clue of how you're going to write your final answer there. Okay, so you have 2x cubed, 11x squared, negative 30x, negative 162. Okay, and then if it is divided by x minus 3, remember you set that equal to 0, and then 3 is going to be your value here. Okay, so then 2 times 3 is 6. This would be 17. This would be 30 and 21, so 51. Subtract 30, you get 21. This would be 63, so you get negative 99. So yeah. So then this is your remainder. This is the constant. This is your x coefficient. This is your x squared coefficient. So you have 2x squared plus 17x plus 21 minus 99 over x minus 3. Okay, that is your alternate form. Now, what's a little different about the next one is it says that you are going to use synthetic division and the remainder theorem to evaluate. We're not writing it in alternate form. if you are evaluating, remember, okay, that P of 1/3 is going to equal the remainder. So that's all you have to find. And 6 is going to be the same. P of 2 is going to equal the remainder. Again, you're evaluating. Okay, so one of these you had fractions to deal with. The other one, you had some placeholders that you had to put in. Okay, so let's see how that went. Usually, if people make a mistake with these, it's because here you're dividing and you're writing it in alternate form, and people forget sometimes how to do write it as the remainder. So if this is your P of 1/3, this is going to be what you're going to use for synthetic division. Okay, so you have 1x cubed, you have negative 2x squared, you have 3x, and you have 4. So no placeholders needed. So 1 times 1/3, 1/3. So I need to get a common denominator. Okay, negative 6 plus 1 is negative 5. Be careful. Just remember your fraction rules. You know these rules. Okay, I know that you know them. Just sometimes we have to slow that down. So negative 6 plus 1 is negative 5. Common denominator stays the same. When you're multiplying fractions, you multiply numerator by numerator. You multiply denominator by denominator. That's another thing people tend to make a small mistake on, because here you keep it the same, but here you have to multiply. So if the denominator is 9, the top is 27. 27 minus 5 is 22. And then I'm multiplying. So I have 22 over 27. 22 times 1, 9 times 3. Okay, so if I want the denominator to be 27, I'm going to do 4 times 27. I would do 4 times 20, which is 80. 4 times 7, which is 28, to get 108, because that's easier for me to do. So I get 130 over 27. My answer is that P of 1/3 equals 130 over 27. Okay, if I could reduce, I would, but no. Okay, and then for number 6, you have P of 2 for P of x equals, and then it's 8x to the 5th. There's no x to the 4th. X to the 3rd, coefficient is 7. X squared, not there. X, the coefficient was 1, and then you do have a constant, your number term. So once you have that set up, your C value for this is going to be 2. 8 times 2 is 16, add straight down. Multiply, add straight down. 40 times 2 is 80, so if I subtract 2 from that, I get 78. Okay, 78 times 2, I would do 70 and 70, which is 140, 16. Okay, you don't have to do this all in your head. You can write some things out. Okay, because you're doubling it, that makes it a little easier. So 314. And if it's plus 9, just add 10, subtract 1. 323. So P of 2 is 323. Okay, what questions do we have on those? All right. Then the last thing we had to do is find a polynomial of degree 3 that has zeros 2, negative 2, and 4. Okay, this is something that you did on your preview packet. So if these are the zeros, remember to write them as factors. So if you can write them as factors, x minus 2, x plus 2, x minus 4, okay, you can just call this P of x or f of x, whatever you like. All we have to do is FOIL. So if I FOIL, I get x squared minus 4 times x minus 4, and then guess what? You only have to FOIL again because you have the difference of 2 squares. So x squared times x is x cubed. X squared times negative 4, negative 4x squared, minus 4x plus 16. That's going to be your solution. All right, any questions on that? How are we feeling now?